Al Minns' new partner, Sugar Sullivan, is a great Savoy dancer in her own right, a 1956 Harvest Moon Ball Jitterbug champion. She remembers as a teenager watching Minns at the Savoy. Some young members of the Dance in New York company had never seen the Lindy or even heard of the Savoy. Working with Minns has been an inspiration.
Welcome, everybody. We really appreciate you're all joining us for the Triple Step Studios, our third edition of the events, the tribute nights, as we've been calling them, for the organization, promoting music awareness and the history of music and dancing. Our first couple of events were tributes to Louis Armstrong and then tributes to swing vocalists of the swing era. So really exciting to be with Denise Minns Harris tonight to tribute her dad, one of the great Lindy Hoppers of all time, Al Minns.
He's a really interesting person. I saw an interview when he talked about how he had worked other jobs. My father never did anything but dance. I mean, that was it. He danced. That's who he was. That's what he did. And quite frankly, you know, I thought that's how everybody lived. When he danced, he had so many different techniques in his toolkit. He never isolated himself to one technique. It was all jazz dance for him. You know what I mean? So he started Lindy, and then he transitioned to the Charleston, and then he transitioned to the, you know, Spank the Baby. Then he transitioned to, you know, so you just had to be ready to hang out or get lost. So yeah, he never just isolated himself to one technique when he was performing.
So, I mean, one thing that comes to mind, and I know we talked about a little bit before the session, just growing up around music and how that was as kind of you growing up and also your fellow siblings growing up, what it was like to be in a household that was around music. And I'm sure that was a reflection of your dad.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're the child of a dancer, the minute you can walk, they put your feet on theirs and you start dancing. I did it to my kids too. It's all right. So I'm not surprised that they're dancers. But there was always music. There was always music in the house, and great music, you know.
Denise, you shared with us some of his very favorite artists. I know Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, Peggy Lee, and a handful of others were there. So we'll be in our video that we share out on YouTube, on Triple Step Studios YouTube channel. We're going to have a few videos of some of Al's favorite artists, which was a very diverse group of artists from throughout his life, which is really cool too.
Yeah.
See, the Savoy Ballroom was a spectacular place. It was a block long with two bandstands, and the floor was something out of this world. The floor had it was made of 3 layers. One layer of springs and cork on top of the layer of springs, and then this highly polished floor. And when they say bouncing at the Savoy, you didn't have to dance. All you had to do is people just stand in front of the bandstand, and the floor actually pushed you up and down from the rhythm of the people patting their feet.
I guess, any initial thoughts, Denise, when you see those videos, just about what you think or feel when you hear him talking about the Savoy and dancing?
As a matter of fact, when he went to the Savoy, at that time, Leon James was like the king. And there was a section of the ballroom that was reserved for only Leon to dance in. Now, my father knew that. But being who he was, he marched his little self in there and starts dancing in Leon's circle. So some of the dancers were like, oh, can you believe, who is this young upstart? Blah, 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 and they were going to stop him. But Leon recognized something about my dad. He's like, nah, let the young whippersnapper go ahead and do his thing. And he was very impressed with my father. Because you know, like I said earlier, my dad was like, what's the status quo? Oh, I think I'll challenge it. And that's how he and Leon became more than partners.
One thing that just struck me, and I know in chatting with Norma Miller later in her life, she mentioned kind of the old school thought of, the only counts they knew of were Count Basie, and like the talk of not really dancing to counts, but dancing to the feel of the music. And I feel like I see that stylistically a lot in your dad. And you made a little mention to it earlier about, the ballroomification almost of this dancing. And like, how were you taught it, or did your dad not? I presume he didn't think in terms of counts. He thought in terms of other things.
Right. He said, listen to the music. And, I asked my oldest sister, I said, Tony, where were you when me and Papa were dancing all the time? And she's like, I was next to you clapping my hands. I mean, it was me and my dad. I had that same reaction to dance that he did. My mission, if you will, is to ask people to get out of the box. I've talked about this on social media, and people have really responded. And what I remember most is one woman saying, yeah, I did something different than what they had taught in the class earlier, and my partner really got mad at me. I'm like, Whereas when you hear my dad talk about the aerials, they took a lemon and made lemonade.
After me came the aerial steps. Now, I invented quite a few of the aerial steps.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, most of them came by accident. So like you'd see somebody do something, and they'd throw a person in the air, and all of a sudden it'd be a sort of mishap, and you'd have to straighten the thing out. You say, hey, we can take that and use it. It's like you've seen dances where the fellow takes a girl, goes and picks her up, raises her back here like that, and drops her down his back and brings her through his legs. Well, that happened by accident. So Ann and Russ were rehearsing one day, and Russell took Ann and threw her up, and he lost control. And she went back, and she was going down on her head, and I ran over and slapped her legs, and she landed on her feet. And I said, hey, we can make a step out of that. And you go over like that, slide down his back, grab him around his waist, come down, and he'll pull you through his legs. See, a lot of these steps happen like that.
Then one day, the way he tells the story, these three big Swedish guys showed up and told him they wanted him to come to Sweden. And so he called me. My middle son had just recently been born at that time. And he called me. He's like, Denise, these guys want me to come to Sweden. I don't know, la, la, la. And again, I said, you're bored. You're not doing anything. You could use the money. Go. And he said, okay. Well, here's the information. If you don't hear from me in a month, come get me. Okay, fine. So when he was there for a month, and when he came home, he called me right away. He was over the moon. He was so happy. He was so happy that there was this enthusiasm for this art that he had given his life to. And he had all these plans about how he was coming back and they were going to do this great summer camp. And he said, but my throat hurts. My throat hurts. Well, okay, I don't mind telling you, my dad was a bit of an alley cat. Bit of an alley cat. I said, well, Dad, I don't know what you might have gone over there and caught. You better go to the doctor. And it turned out that he had esophageal cancer. And he died not long after, but he died. My feeling was always he lived his way and he died victoriously, because he saw that what he spent his life on was going to continue no matter what.
Al Minns looks forward into teaching in his new career, passing on the Lindy and other jazz dances to future generations. Pia Lindstrom, News 4, New York.
Thank you all for having the interest and taking time out of your day to find out about my dad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a great night.